Hello and welcome SBL students. My name is Steve Willis. In this video, I'm going to demystify the cultural web and show you how to use this tricky model in your SBL exam. I'm in an examiner's report. While reviewing the examiner's comments and learning about student performance, I was struck by this comment. Surprisingly few candidates use the cultural web to structure their responses, and so discussions of cultural factors were often partial at best. Candidates who used the cultural web as a framework tended to achieve higher marks as there was a clear structure to their answers. In SBL, you might be asked to analyze an organization's culture in the context of change management, for example, new leadership. If you just try to freestyle, if you just generate whatever ideas come to mind, you're probably not going to develop enough points to get a pass on that requirement. The cultural web is a great tool to let you drill down into a company's culture and look at a detailed list of factors to help you develop your ideas. Let's jump in. The first aspect of organizational culture we could look at would be power structure. Here we're looking at the source of management's ability to move things forward, to motivate people to take action, to coerce people to do things. Now, power can come from charisma, for example, in a small entrepreneurial company. It's the charisma of the leader that motivates people to take action and move things forward. On the other hand, in a large formal organization, the source of power could be the position in the organization itself. For example, in the Army, your power comes from your rank. In some organizations, power can come from an individual's expertise. For example, in a software company that's structured around projects and completing projects, power could come from a software engineer's knowledge, their ability to move the programming project forward. So that's power, and in SBL, you'll find clues about power structure in the pre-scene when they describe the leadership of the company and the board structure. The next dimension of culture that you can explore would be organizational structure, and that's linked to power. Here, we can look at the company's org chart in the pre-scene material. Is the company tall? Are there many levels of management? Or is it flat? Are there fewer levels of management? Is the company structured traditionally around silos like marketing, sales, production, finance? Or do we see a matrix organization? We could then look at how power is distributed through the company under organizational structure. Do we have a centralized company where power is held at the core? Or do we have a more democratic organization with delegation of authority? The next area of culture that we can explore is control and control systems. Here we're looking at the ways in which the company controls staff behavior. I've had jobs where the control environment was quite strict. You'd need a badge to enter and exit the building. You'd also need that badge to move around in your own office, to enter different rooms in the office. I'd have lots of paperwork to fill out, timesheets to fill out, material requisition forms to complete, appraisal forms to complete. So some organizations have formal controls. I've also had jobs in more entrepreneurial organizations where control was less formal. We can also look at the emphasis of the control. Is it on punishment or reward? For example, if you're late 3 times, you go on probation. That would be an example of punishment. On the other hand, we could have a system where bonuses go to the best 3 performing salespeople. That would be a control system based on reward. So, under control systems, we're looking at how a company directs the behavior of their staff. Moving on to rituals and routines. Here we're looking at group activities that happen on a regular, recurring basis. And what behavior are these routines encouraging? Some rituals that I've personally experienced in companies: budgeting, the budgeting ritual. At the end of the fiscal year, staff are focused on preparing the budget for the next year. Is what we're talking about. It's what we're meeting about. Now, if I didn't participate in that, boy, I would look odd. Another ritual many of us have experienced would be the annual Christmas party. Here, the company is trying to foster team spirit. And again, if we didn't participate in that ritual, we might look a bit odd. We would look out of place in the company. Another ritual might be training in some companies. And what are the training courses emphasizing? What behaviors are the training courses encouraging, or what competencies are these courses trying to encourage? So these are examples of rituals and routines. Another area of organizational culture that we could look at would be the stories that are passed on from employee to employee. And what beliefs do these stories reflect? Do they relate to the strengths of the company? Who are the heroes? Who are the villains in these stories? We could see this in the culture at Apple Computer, the iconic computer company founded in the 1970s by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They had a vision to change the way people work with computers. They wanted computers to be small enough and affordable so people could have them in their homes. Well, the trials and the tribulations of the founders of the company, especially Steve Jobs, well, those are still a big part of the culture in Apple Computer today. And the final area of company culture that the cultural web promotes exploring are the company's symbols. In some cultures, like a role culture, the symbols are very prevalent and quite important. For example, in the Army, symbols would be your uniform and the stripes on your shoulder. That tells people about your power, about your status in the organization. In a large company, a symbol could be where your office is located. For example, the coveted corner office with 2 windows in an office building. That would denote someone with a lot of power in the company, senior leadership. I remember my first job as a research assistant on Wall Street. I did not have an office. I had an open cubicle. This told the company that I was low on the totem pole just by the place where I sat. Some organizations might de-emphasize these symbols. For example, you could have a software company where everyone is wearing informal clothing and people work in an open office plan. In fact, you couldn't tell the company founder, the owner of the company, apart from the programmers. This person sits in the same place, they dress the same way, they act the same way. After we've identified and evaluated these aspects of an organization's culture, we can then look at the paradigm. This is the overall way things are done in an organization. How does the company respond to events? And how does a company make strategic decisions? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the cultural web in a nutshell. Please remember, in your SBL exam, you'll get no marks for a generic recital of this model in your answer. You'll only earn credit when you are answering the question that is asked. For example, here in Task 1, you are asked to prepare briefing notes that outline problems in culture caused by the previous leadership style, and then the impact that the current CEO's leadership style has had on the company's culture. You need a lot of ideas here to get a passing mark on this requirement, so a great starting place would be to lay out the elements of culture defined under the cultural web, those 7 elements of culture. That will prompt you to develop your ideas. That'll prompt your thought process as you explore the exhibits, as you recall your knowledge of the pre-scene. SBL team, if you would like to put your knowledge of the cultural web to the test before you jump into the past exams, well, a great practice activity can be found here in the Study Hub. Under the Cultural Web section, you can find Activity 1. You get a rich description of an organization's culture, and you can then analyze that culture using the Cultural Web. When you are done, you can check your solution against the model answer that is provided. Ladies and gents, good luck on your upcoming SBL exam.